All right. Hopefully now we are back. Hopefully no problems. Fingers crossed.
I got us live.
Yay!
All
So
right.
far.
Okay. So far, so good. And let's just hope it stays this way. So, yes, guys, thank you for your patience. I'm sorry that sometimes I'm a little bit of an idiot. It happens.
It happens. It's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, back to where we were. So, 1917. In case you were in the middle of a point before everything completely fell apart the first time around.
Okay.
What were your thoughts on the trailer?
It is a great-looking trailer. My point, I said, I think it reminds us of Dunkirk because it is yet another war movie that has the ticking clock, and makes sense because it is very time-based. It's just that hopefully this movie won't have a stupid shtick like Dunkirk, which makes everything fucking confusing for the sake of making it confusing, and hopefully it actually has a good narrative story to it that I can follow. The cast looks great. The feel looks great. It felt very tense, and that, yeah, like the ticking clock is used because they're on a time crunch, and that, I mean, that makes the film exciting, and like this thing, like I'm sorry that I'm comparing it as much to Dunkirk, but the thing with Dunkirk is like, while it was a very very time driven and a lot of things needed to happen very quickly, I didn't feel the need in that movie for it need to happen as quickly as it needed to, because they have 3 different time periods, which makes it fucking confusing, which I never really understood, which I didn't really care about in that movie. And with this movie, hopefully the narrative will be simply straightforward, where I'm like just really tense from opening, from start to finish, because I think Sam Mendes can do a really good job. I've not been the biggest fan of his movies, but I do think he's a good director and he can make this movie very good. And like, yeah, this is kind of like the Oscar type war movie from the last couple of years, where we had Hacksaw Ridge, several Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, and a couple of wins. Same with Dunkirk. So yeah, I think this can be the same type of movie that I also can enjoy. Not just an Oscar movie for the sake of being an Oscar movie, but a really good war movie. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
All right, then. Robert.
For the trailer, so we actually went to, what is today, Friday?
Yep.
Yeah. So yesterday we went to go see Hobbs and Shaw, and they showed the trailer before it. So unfortunately we weren't able to stick a camera in front of our face because that was our first time seeing it. So we weren't able to react to it in a theater. It looks good. It kind of actually reminded me personally of Saving Private Ryan, only with a time crunch element into it. In so much of the fact that, like, say, Saving Private Ryan, they spent the whole movie trying to quickly go get Private Ryan. And in this, it looks like it's just one guy for the most part. He looks like he might have some help throughout the movie, but it's one guy just in a quick race to try to alert people, hey, get out of there, or otherwise you're all going to die.
Yeah.
Which is a fantastic story plot line. So, yeah, it looks really good.
And Chris.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is I actually really enjoyed Dunkirk, so that is the first thing I thought of when I saw this movie. Is like, this feels a little bit like Dunkirk. The difference is that, like, when I looked at this trailer, I was like, this looks like it's going to be an intense, like, I'm on the edge of my seat the entire time, and it's going to, like, keep me going on a ride throughout the whole thing. Like he was saying, like, are we going to be following this dude the entire time? Are we going to be like, is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? You know, I don't know how much of this is actually, like, based on the true story, since I know it was taking place during the actual war, but how much of this is, like, based on true story versus how much is fiction. So I don't know. anything outside of like this looks like it's just going to be an intense edge of my seat the entire time.
Hell yeah. Nico?
It looks interesting, but it looks like it kind of reminds me of a lot of the other movies that were set in a war that featured a bunch of British people that I didn't bother to watch. So I don't really know if this is something I'm going to rush to go see once it hits theaters. I mean, it does have an interesting look, and 1917, that's World War I-ish as opposed to World War II-ish. And World War I, as we remember from Wonder Woman, that's the lone reference I can think of a movie I've seen that takes place around that time period. World War I was a bit more of a more violent war than World War II, and that they had to get down and dirty, and they had to make things. They had they couldn't go big with their weapons. They had to get really creative with them, like various bombs with various toxins. And I'm really tired tonight, and that's probably why I'm struggling to remember some of what happened in the trailer. But I'll say it looks interesting. Don't know if I'm going to go see it.
All right, then. Fair enough. Now, it seems that we are having some more technical difficulties, which I'm doing everything I can to try to fix the bit rate and try to fix the buffer size, guys, so bear with me if it does sort of cut in and out a little bit. I do apologize. I don't know why I'm having these problems, because, we've been doing this show for the better part of a year, and only now we're having these kind of things. I'm sorry. I'm doing everything I can to fix it right now. Hopefully, before we hit the second half, it'll start to resolve itself. And as we'll try to move on. There might be a couple stories we'll probably wind up skipping just to make up for lost time. But one of the other things that I actually wanted to talk about for a hot second. Now, in the past, I want to say 20 years, we've seen the comings and goings of several big fantasy franchises. We saw Harry Potter, we saw Lord of the Rings, and all the other Middle-earth films, and we saw so many really interesting attempts at trying to make fantasy mainstream again. Now, lest everybody forget, before we had any of that, there was a little film from 2000 that kind of stunk badly, but it was glorious. So it's kind of a cult classic, and I'm, of course, referring to Dungeons and Dragons, with the one and only Jeremy Irons as our main villain, and it was delicious. But now it looks like the writers of Spider-Man Homecoming and the also directors of Game Night, John Francis Daly, and I'm blanking on the other guy now. Shit. That's embarrassing. Schmoedown.
Jonathan Goldstein
Jonathan Goldstein
is what it says on this report.
Yes, thank you. Are being eyed to possibly tackle a Dungeons and Dragons film.
I wish I had the answers written in front of me when I was on the Schmoedown.
Hey, you take the help you can get. But that said, I don't know if I should hate this. I don't know if I should love this. Robert, are you familiar at all with the original film from 2000?
No, well, I mean, I know of it. I've never watched it, and it sounds like, for all intents and purposes, that was really good that I avoided that one. I mean, I know of Dungeons and Dragons. I think almost any person who's living and breathing has heard of Dungeons and Dragons and maybe gets the basic idea. And thanks to shows like Big Bang Theory, we're all probably a little more familiar with it than normal. But
or Stranger Things.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm not caught up on Stranger Things, so. The thing is making any kind of a movie based off of games have been pretty, whether it's video games or board games, it's been very kind of iffy. And yeah, I would say that for most people, the Dungeons and Dragons movie is on the top of the list of like really bad movies ever made. Like, unfortunately, that one wasn't directed by Uwe Boll, so we can't blame him for that. Yeah. But I mean, the thing is the two guys that you mentioned, as far as what their writing has been so far, they've done some fairly quality stuff, with the exception of that like awful Vacation reboot they were trying to do.
Oh God.
Yeah. The rest of the stuff they've done has been pretty decent. They have more hits than misses, and they've really got a good stride on stuff. So I don't know. I want to hear more about like what their plan is for this movie. But that being said, I'm also not a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan. So I don't know if this is necessarily like right out the gate a movie I'm going to be interested in seeing at all.
Fair enough. Nico, you familiar with D&D?
Not the original movie. I've heard of the board game multiple times. Don't know how the game works. Never played it, but I there has been a part of me that's been curious as to what would happen if I actually picked up this game and played it. And you mentioned the guys who made Game Night are working on this particular movie. Game Night was one of my favorite movies of the year it came out, because it was something we hadn't seen in a while in terms of a comedy. Like it took a unique twist on it, made it interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. And it's sort of like whodunit mystery movie premise. So now where we're going with, so I'm curious to see what they will do with Dungeons and Dragons. Again, I don't have any other context to go off of that. I don't know what the source material looks like. I just know the guys who are making this movie have already made a movie that I liked.
I was saying, and you liked Homecoming well enough, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because they also wrote it.
So we're off to a great start.
Okay. Case?
Just really don't care. I'm one of the weird people who absolutely hated Game Night, everything in it essentially. So yeah, and Homecoming is written, I guess, fine. I just don't care. Done. Next
Fair
thing.
enough. Chris?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I've never been a fan of like Dungeons and Dragons in general. So making a movie out of it, I'm not going to be the audience for it necessarily. I mean, if it looks epic enough, I might see it. But other than that, I'm like, eh.
I can respect that, and I'm of course nervous as fuck. Because here's the thing: I've not played a single game of D&D in my life. I have no intention of starting. I don't know how I would even start. But that
With
said,
friends? Sorry.
Maybe. But that said, the 2000 D&D is probably my favorite bad movie ever made. It is so terrible. It is so cheesy, so corny, so deliciously horrendous. And I love every single second of it. Because it sucks, and it sucks openly. And the fact that these guys think they're going to actually make a good movie based on this franchise... no. Count me out. And with that, I want to hit up another trailer. This trailer for a follow-up film to one of my favorite movies of the decade. Not just of the year it came out, not just of the genre of, horror films that are actually quite psychological and are beautiful, but a movie called The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers, who, of course, for horror fans, you know him for directing The Witch. And it stars Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe as these two guys who are essentially stationed at a lighthouse, and there's something amiss about the situation. Now, Kees, you're surprisingly, you actually kind of liked this trailer. Would you mind explaining why?
Yeah, this is the type of trailer that usually would not excite me one bit. It's black and white, and it's directed by someone who made a horror movie, and it seems like this is going to be a horror movie. However, it doesn't seem as clear cut. Like it doesn't seem like an actual horror movie. It seems more like a very suspenseful movie. And like I do like suspense thrillers, so I think that could work. Also, I've heard that The Witch was more a slow burn, where it was a slow burn of building up something instead of like the horror tropes that I usually hate. Also, Willem Dafoe has been kicking ass in recent years in all his roles, and it seems like he's going for his third Oscar nomination in 3 years in a row, which is just like the guy is on a resurgence these years that's just amazing, and I cannot wait to see if he actually gets it. Also, outside of Twilight, Robert Pattinson is a good actor, and I want to see what he can do in this movie. I think he looks very good in this trailer, along with Dafoe. Also, I forgot to pronounce it correctly. It's Willem Dafoe. Sorry.
Yes. Hi, Met Your Mother reference. Gotta love it.
Yes. But this trailer, it looks very suspenseful, creepy indeed, and I'm like, I want to see what's going on, because just like the characters in this trailer, we don't know. And that's why we're like, I want to know. I want to find out. I want to see what happens. So I was very intrigued.
All right. Brothers Adams, you guys did a reaction for this one, didn't you?
No. No, we haven't done a reaction to that. So probably not going to be able to get to a reaction to that because we got a couple of videos we got to play catch up on. Yep. But it looks really like the stylized black and white, the grain that they put into that from like the film grain that's in there. It looks really good. The only thing I would say personally for me that seems a bit off-putting is their accents aren't quite seemingly on point. There seems something to be just a little off with it. Maybe it's just the key phrases that they got them saying in the trailer, and they might sound a little bit better in normal conversation in the movie, but something, I don't know, something's off on it, which at the same time, the thing is that trailer is showing that something is off anyways. It may be a subliminal trick in the making of that movie, and that's what they hope to reach people by doing something like that. So who knows? But yeah, it looks very interesting. It's kind of a cool idea. So I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. And again, I love the stylistic nature of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like, it's hard for me to tell. Like, is it supposed to be like a horror movie? Because I looked at something like this, and if it is, it looks like it's more aching along the lines of like a Get Out or Us, where it's more psychological. In which case, if that's the case, it is more my type of horror film than otherwise, because I'm just not a huge horror fan in general. But the premise and the way the trailer is cut together, you can't help but be intrigued by it, I think. It just looks really interesting. Not a whole lot to say. Like, I mean, I think it's going to be good for a lot of people to get more of a taste of Robert Pattinson and his acting style, since apparently he's going to be playing Batman. So, I mean, it's good for people to see him more and more away from the Twilight aspect. So hopefully this movie does a little bit more of that for folks.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Nico, you've got the future Batman and the Green Goblin in a movie together.
Mm-hmm.
Does this actually sound like something that maybe I could convince you to check out in theaters, or would you be hiding under a pillow the whole time?
If they turn out to actually be Batman and Green Goblin by the end of the movie, and that's
okay. So this is how tired I am. I don't remember much from the trailer, even though I saw it an hour ago. All I remember is a bunch of waves. It's in black and white, and Willem Dafoe is making his typical "I'm about to murder you" face, which is just his natural resting face. But
Kind of is actually. I mean, really.
That's what's
You're not
funny.
wrong. Not wrong.
but I didn't see anything that looked like it would scare me away from seeing it. So yeah, I don't feel like this is a straight up horror film so much as it might be just horror-esque. It'll have horror elements to it, but they won't be a gigantic part of the plot. So I might see it. I might see it. I want to see another trailer though, just to get more information as to what this movie is, though.
Fair enough. And you know, look, as I already mentioned, I'm gonna love this movie. I can already tell I'm going to love this movie. This is my kind of, psychological kind of, horror-esque film. Whether or not it pans out to actually be horror, well, that remains to be seen. But what intrigues me the most is the setting. The setting on this, on this little island with this little lighthouse. You have so much you can do with so little. And that's what I'm excited to see the most out of this movie, because it just looks beautiful. It's my kind of thing. As we move on to our next story now, for once I actually have to use my phone to catch up on the show notes, which is unlike me, but, I don't want to use the computer because, again, I don't want another crash, please. Thank you very much. And speaking of crash and burn,
yeah, we don't want another crash from 2005 either.
Yeah, we don't.
No,
We definitely don't want
no.
that.
Hey, that's an old
And,
reference.
and speaking of a crash and burn, I'm a little scared that Venom 2 might be trying to do the same thing, because Sony is eyeing some very peculiar talent to tackle its follow-up to the fucking money maker that was the first Venom. And some of the directors that they're actually looking to, again, take a look at Venom 2. Andy Serkis, Rupert Wyatt, and Travis Knight. All three incredibly talented. And yet I couldn't be more scared. Robert, am I justified in my fear, or is there something I'm missing here?
So Venom is quite possibly in my top. I'll go with 5 because I don't want to count right now. Top 5 favorite comic book characters ever. Like I've got figures and stuff plastered that you can't see behind me. But like I love Venom. When I first saw or heard about the Venom movie that they were doing that was not going to have any Spider-Man involvement, I'm extremely reserved on it. And then I was pleasantly surprised that the movie did kind of pull off what I would feel like a good Venom origin had Spider-Man not been involved. I feel like the movie did a decent job with it. The movie was very basic feeling, though, but Tom Hardy did a phenomenal job as Eddie Brock. The effects on Venom looked perfect. He himself looked amazing, minus the white spider on the chest. So, I really did like and enjoy that movie for what it was. Oh God, don't remind me of Topher Grace. Ugh. My spider sense is tingling. Get it? Ew.
If you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. Thanks for reinforcing that innuendo. So just like Venom, one of my other favorite characters was Carnage, and I feel like that the Venom movie, while as a whole was really good, and then when they actually did reveal that Woody Harrelson is playing Cletus Cassidy, who will be Carnage, just maybe if he was back in, yeah, exactly. For those who can't see if the frames are dropping, my brother is bashing his head on his desk.
Yeah.
For if it was like back in like Natural Born Killers, Woody Harrelson, maybe I could see him portraying Cletus Cassidy, because that was almost close to it in Natural Born Killers. But nowadays, it just seemed off. It didn't seem right. He looked like he had Ronald McDonald hair. So I don't know how I feel. I do not have high hopes for Venom 2. Now, since they have released that director's shortlist, it seems like, I guess, either it has been officially announced or at least Tom Hardy is really championing for Andy Serkis to be the director. Andy Serkis is phenomenal at CGI stuff.
Mhm.
So if he does have a hand in it, I'm hoping for a little bit more as far as how the CGI looked compared to the first one, where Venom and Riot had that fight at the end, and there was just a big blob of symbiote, and you couldn't tell who's punching who and what was going where. What was a foot? What was a hand? Was that a head? Maybe a shoulder? Who knows what I'm looking at this point, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it, but I mean, Andy Serkis at least would give me some high hopes.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That was a long discussion.
That's fine. That's fine. Case.
I don't really know Venom. I haven't read the comics. I have only seen Spider-Man 3 and Venom as my source material, which isn't really the best source material because, neither is particularly good. Look, I do like Spider-Man 3 a lot, but Venom is probably the worst part of it. And the Venom movie, at least they got Tom Hardy, and he was really good in it as Venom. It's just that everything around it kind of sucked. Mostly, as Robert was saying, the fact that it was just way too dark. I hardly saw anything during the entirety of that movie. Now, with the talent they've listed now, I think there's a lot of potential for a second movie. So I think they could go in the right direction, especially after the amount of money that the first movie made. Like, holy shit, why did that movie make so much money? I still don't know. I will have to wait and see. I want I want confirmation about who's officially directing and officially writing before I really say anything, because this list looks good, but I want to see more.
All right. Nico.
I thought you were going to give me a transitional sentence to work with, but I will just continue. First off, I can't stop imagining Ronald McDonald now as Carnage. Are you loving it now? Are you loving it now?
Get that Happy Meal.
My God, that would be a scary thing.
Reach inside, grab the toy.
But the first Venom that had Tom Hardy in it, that was a movie that I felt should not have worked, and yet somehow it did. Like, it has this unique charm to it that's well, first off, I think it was a matter of, like, wasn't it critically panned so much that the audiences were like, let's see it for ourselves and let's see if it's not that bad. And because the expectations were so lowered by the critics that they were able to see the glass half full as opposed to half empty. So I'd say that helped the first Venom a lot. And now that it has that fanfare and it has, and the studio knows that it is a cash cow, they'd obviously want to do the second one as right as they possibly can, so that it doesn't feel like they're just resting on their laurels. And Andy Serkis, the king of mocap, he's the guy to go to. Like, every criticism we have about the CGI from the first movie, Andy Serkis is the guy who can correct that, because he can tell Tom Hardy hey, listen, this is how I want you to be one with the character. Same goes for any other actor who is wearing a symbiote in that sequel. One thing we haven't really thought about, though, is we now know that the MCU is going to be diving into the multiverse in very, very soon, especially with Doctor Strange and the madness of the multiverse of madness, and the Scarlet and the WandaVision series. Yeah, that's coming out soon. And so we don't know if could this be part of the multiverse that they explore, and could we also see a different origin of Venom told in Thor: Love and Thunder, because we haven't seen the Clintar, which is the Venom, the symbiote species' actual name. We haven't seen them explored yet in the MCU. So
could we drop on that one?
So could this be part of the future multiverse building that will be happening with all these Marvel properties?
Good question.
That was pretty good. I actually didn't remember what the symbiote's name was or their homeworld.
Yeah, no, I straight up didn't know it.
Yeah.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
I mean, here's the thing, like the idea that Andy Serkis is taking it on potentially has me a little more interested. The first Venom movie was better than it had any right to be, I think. At this point, I'm just really tired of Sony doing their own thing, especially after Far From Home hits $1 billion. Like, you guys understand that at this point, Marvel knows what they're doing best. And I'm just kind of tired of them trying to create their own Spider-Man universe outside of the other Spider-Man characters. I'll see Venom 2, probably. It'll be decent, I guess. I'm just not interested necessarily in them continuing on this idea. That, and then the freaking Morbius movie that they're trying to work on too, which is with Jared Leto. I don't care. I want the characters to interact now. Marvel's spoiled us with the MCU. I want them to interact. I don't want the standalone Venom thing. I want him involved with Spider-Man.
At this point, I think we honestly you actually hit the nail on the head, at least the way that I see it. Sony, they struck gold with one of the best movies of the decade, with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah.
But they've kind of proven that they can't replicate that in any other division, because sure, I know that The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 has its defenders, but for the most part, they weren't very well liked, and Venom was incredibly split as far as audiences are concerned, and people aren't excited for Morbius. They're not excited for Black Cat and Silver Sable, and like you said, the MCU has spoiled us. In the best way, though, because they're telling a good story.
And they've probably presented us with the best Peter Parker.
Yeah.
I just wish the movies he was in were better overall.
Oh, you suck.
I know. I'm the hater because I think that his first two films are just fine. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just think they're fine. But of course, that means I think they suck because, fanboy culture for the win. I know. So with that, again, to make up for a little bit of lost time, guys, we're actually going to take a short 5-minute break. Then as soon as we get back, we're going to dive in with these two gentlemen about their experiences, their most recent trip to the wonderful world of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, and talk about what it was like to finally do what so many of us wish we could do. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back. What the fuck? What? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yes!
Okay, family, fuck yourselves. Okay, Robert, DJ, kick their asses! Woo! What? Fucking what?
Cinefanatics in the house!
No, it's
Yes. Robert, you son of a bitch! You lied to me.
He's promised me a belt. That's right. He's gonna get a belt. He's gonna get a belt. You're gonna get a belt. Didn't I say you're gonna get a belt, right? I mean that. You're gonna get a belt too, right?
You bet your ass.
We're gonna get all belts. And if
Doing a reaction of the reaction.
we trigger things, so we kind of do.
Robert freaking Adams.
I would love to see Nico react to this.
I don't know if we'd get the reaction we'd want.
Oh,
You
we
just
would, and so would the comment section. Oh,
Those vocals, man. What the fuck? Oh shit.
it's not metal without decapitation. Before Lamb of God, there wasn't really a band like them. Like, sure, musically speaking, they're a straight Pantera ripoff. There's not even a debate there. But Pantera, they never really took their lyrics in that serious of a direction. A lot of their lyrics were more personal, more introverted, were more aimed at, don't fuck with me or I'm going to fuck you up. Whereas Lamb of God is like, hey, motherfuckers, take to the streets and take down the man Bush.
And this is what we see wrong with the world, too, I think. And that's where, like you said, we'll get to it, but I feel that's where a lot of the Testament and Megadeth influences come in. Whereas, we're going to talk about these issues, and here's what's right in the world, and here's what's wrong, and here's how, this makes us feel. And that's also kind of a punk rock influence as well, is,
Yeah.
You get some fucking, Beastie Boys or some, Blink 182 type shit going down. It's just like, oh, this is
okay. Sorry to be that nerd, but that sort of punk rock is more like your NoFX, your Rancid, your Bad
True,
Religion,
yeah. Or like Rage Against the Machine, or yeah.
Savage Hardy Tony Smash Man Hill. E-Dub Woodburn Hazard Jimmy Derry Bill Philadelphia Carriola Taylor Nasario Montenegro, Slayer, Ishan Rajma, Kyle, the King of the North, Reverend Dolphin. We're looking at Jake, the Master, Tony, Brian, the Carolina Mountain, Sean, the Sicario, December. Wow.
And here we are, hopefully back for real this time on the second half of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. And, look, guys, I appreciate the jokes. They're fun. It's a fun little bit of levity, But yes, as we were just saying off camera, this is probably the most plagued episode of the show, and this makes me realize I need to clean the shit out of my computer because this shit can't keep happening. 2 weeks in a row, that's not cool. That is not cool, booby. Not cool. It almost feels like how maybe I would do in my debut match in the Schmoedown when and if it ever actually happens. But that's not something I can say about our two guests, who one of them did, in fact, make his debut in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown this week. And first things first, Robert, let me just ask you, where were you when you got the message of, hey, you want to compete?
and also, when were you? Like, when did this happen as much as where did it happen?
Oh, this one can be answered.
Yes. So, I mean, right off the bat, for people who are in the chat, all of us sitting here, unfortunately, there will be a couple of questions that we can't answer. I believe everyone understands the way Schmoedown is created, the way it's set up, what Christian has in mind with like story arcs and whatnot. I believe everyone's gonna understand that, correct? I mean,
Yes.
everyone has a.
Hopefully.
So unfortunately, this is one of the questions we probably won't be able to answer. Just kidding. So that's the thing, is a lot of people, a lot of people have been curious about this. We've seen like the other, like all the reactions to it and people commenting everywhere. So the big question is like, what was the storyline behind this? How exactly was this set up? What happened behind the scenes to lead up to this? So the truth of it was that Only Stupid Answers, DJ's partner, Sam, unfortunately was not able to make the shooting that day due to a personal matter. So we had already, we got the invite to be at Collider for the shooting of Schmoedown that day while we happened to be in LA for VidCon and everything. So we went there. We had watched a couple of matches already be filmed, and then there was a break for lunch. At the break for lunch, we're standing around, my brother and I are standing around, we're trying to figure out like where are we going to go get some food at or something real quick. And Christian walks up to us and says, okay, which one of you two are better at movie trivia? And I mean, my brother, bless him, the first thing he said is like, him, pointing at me. And of course I was like, me.
Just between two of us have an ego trip.
I do not take that back right now. I refuse to let this go on. So Christian said, okay, I'm going to put you in a match. And we're like, what?
Huh?
Come in?
Excuse me?
You're kidding me, right? No fucking way. Like, we are literally looking at Christian and telling him, like, you're serious. So the next match after we came back from lunch was Only Stupid Answers versus The Family. I had about 30 minutes notice, roughly, to get prepared and to wrap my head around the fact that I'm about to be on the Schmoedown. So, I mean, yeah, granted, we do the reactions, y'all do the reaction. A lot of us really, really love the Schmoedown, and we have the hope that we're good enough and that we get the opportunity to be on the Schmoedown. Which, I mean, I would say we had that idea, we had that dream as well.
Be nice someday.
We didn't know it was just going to drop right then and there. Like, yeah. Our original goal for that day was just to be there, to watch the Schmoedown being made. And all of a sudden, I'm being asked to be a part of it, and we're like, wait, what? So that was what actually happened. So when you see me, the first thing we filmed for that was the promo of me walking in with DJ. And so I'm just still completely like, I can't get out of my head. I can't wrap my mind around that moment. It was just, that was completely wild. So yeah, that's what actually happened.
I can't even imagine, because I've had the fortune of being there twice, and both times, of course, yeah, selfishly, I'm like, oh, is there some way I can get myself into a match? Is there some way maybe I can hear, like, hey Chris, we need a fill-in? Do you want to come in and compete? I'll be like, ooh, don't mind if I do. But you like, the simple fact is, you got in just by being there. That's freaking cool.
Right place, right time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I like to think that, I mean, we know Christian loves all the reactors. He has listed multiple times on the Facebook group which reactors he follows. We know he is a fan of us. He's a fan of you guys, especially Nico.
Yay!
He's a fan of the reactors. He really enjoys watching all of us that create this. What do you call it? The side content, the content adjacent Schmoedown adjacent content. He likes that because, I mean, Schmoedown is him and Mark's baby. He appreciates the fact that we're all fans, that we create this, and that now we're expanding on his idea. We're taking this to heart. We're making something meaningful out of it. I think that's one of the things that he really appreciates out of all of us, whether it's Cinefanatics, Dedicated to Art, JTH, Albert, Abby Friel. I'm trying to figure out how many I can mention right off the top of my head. Action.
All those names.
Even a good example is Late to the Party, who have gotten that invite. Was it like a year and a half
They
ago?
were the first. They were the first to get that
2 years
invite.
ago already.
Yeah, almost 2 years. Yeah. And that he appreciates them so much that they've gotten the invite as well. And if I remember correctly, he actually invited them on Collider Live. I think it was to participate in the free-for-all to begin with. I can't remember exactly, but
So this would have been back on the Schmoes No Show. Like I said, way the F back when. They just they went to the free for all and they were just there in the audience. They just were there in attendance of everything. But that's also because, yes, they did make their team debut alongside Tim Franco, who now Traitor, Crimson Fury, and all that.
I love that storyline too. That's fantastic.
It is
And
actually pretty great.
You mentioned
see that coming.
You mentioned people who were just fans of the Schmoedown getting recognized. Like Janine was just an artist when she started, and then she got the invite to come and actually sit in a couple tapings, and then lo and behold, here she is now kicking ass in the singles league, and now she's got Ethan Irwin as a partner, and I think they're going to do great things in the teams tournament this season. So, you show your love of the Schmoedown, and you somehow, some way, you will be rewarded for it.
And I think that's the huge benefit of where the Schmoedown is right now. The Schmoedown is big enough to where it reaches people on, I mean, like we mentioned this in the Houston reaction, it's reaching people on a personal level. And it's small enough still right now that we're all going to be able to grow with it. Like, we are helping the Schmoedown grow. We're getting the word out. Everyone is starting to become more and more familiar with it. And as it grows, going from like city to city that it's been doing this year, it's only going to get bigger. This is a fantastic time to be a fan. I will compare this to, like, say, someone who is kicking themselves for not buying stock in Netflix years ago.
Yeah.
This is essentially us buying stock in the Schmoedown. We're doing reactions to it. We're talking about it constantly. Both me and my brother have friends that we're constantly talking about the Schmoedown. I mean, we got friends that know of our YouTube channel because we talk about that a lot as well. But we're like, hey, this movie trivia thing, this is awesome. And they're like, okay, you're talking about this movie trivia thing again. And we're showing friends episodes of it.
Nice.
And yeah, it's going to grow. This is going to be huge. And we're in the stage now where it's a great time to be involved, to be a part of it, because it's going to get bigger from here. There is no way the Schmoedown is not going to grow.
Yeah, and that's... please, Chris, if you had a thought, keep going.
No, I mean the whole experience is really cool. I mean, just being dropped out of nowhere, like, hey, go throw you on the Schmoedown, like that was a really cool experience. As far as like my involvement, like we'll touch base real quick on how and why I was able to crash the interview at the end.
Yeah, that was fun too.
Exactly, magic season.
It is the magic season.
The fun thing was like, well, of course, like, okay, so my brother's on it, cool. Like, out of the two of us, if you go back and you hear our story again of how we came across the Schmoedown and everything, like, I think it's only right. It's cool that out of the two of us, the one who found the Schmoedown originally is the first one to make an appearance. If only one of us has to be the one to play, of course it's going to be him. In the same vein, though, we have the YouTube channel together, so it's like, okay, he can't have all the fun, right? I've got to have some of the fun too. So what's the best way to do that? It's crashing the post interview. So that's one of the things where prior to the match, I was able to talk to Christian and say like, hey, would it be cool, or is there a way where like I come in later at the end, pull him out of it, saying, crashing the interview, what have you, and saying like, hey, we got to get back to Austin, this, that, and the other. And he was like, yeah. Here's what we're going to do though. You're going to be asking for some gas money as well. And I was like, cool, sounds great. I will roll with that.
Nice.
Did you ever get that gas money?
We flew by plane. We didn't need gas money.
We didn't need gas money. We already
how much jet fuel is?
See, I'm asking though because and this might be something you can't answer, but I'm like, what if the storyline that he had in mind was you didn't get the gas money, and so you had to stick around, and then you had to shoot another match in order to get home?
I mean, it's.
The problem is we're going into the tournament season now, so that makes it kind of awkward if we don't show up for like another year almost. We've been stuck there without gas money this whole time.
I mean, worst things have happened. Burnett's apparently been trapped in a closet for a long time, so.
And now he wants revenge.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was really cool just to be able to collaborate in the last minute with Christian on all right, I'm gonna crash in. What do I say? What do I do? And just be able to make that appearance. And I'm fine. I know a lot of people are like, I want to make it onto the Schmoedown. I'd love to be able to compete with everybody. I'm cool first time out, just having 10 seconds in real quick, grab them and go, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That was just an awesome experience for me as it is. But yeah, I mean, it's still kind of hard for us, just thinking about whoa, yeah, that's a thing we actually did. I mean, now it's a little bit more. Now it's a little bit more ingrained in our heads. Yeah, we definitely did that because not only have we watched the match a couple times, we've watched everybody else's reactions to the match a few times now. So, we're fully understanding oh yeah, that's us. We were there. That happened. That's awesome.
And, so you guys haven't mentioned that already, but if I may, when, especially for you, Robert, when you're walking out with DJ and you're sitting down and you're starting to hear the rules of round one, are you in that moment just are you feeling the lights? Are you feeling the pressure? And you look across, there's Drew McWeeny and Andrew Guy sitting next to you. Walk me through a little bit of your headspace if you could.
First of all, I'm sitting down in the proper chair.
Such an idiot.
Yeah. So we can talk about that here in a minute if y'all remind me to bring that up, because there is a story behind the messed up chair. Okay. So the thing was sitting next to Andrew Guy and Drew McWeeny. Luckily, Andrew Guy we met we originally met at the Houston meetup. He showed up at the meetup that we organized before the Houston Schmoedown match. So we already got a chance to talk with Andrew Guy. First of all, right off the bat, Andrew Guy is a fantastic person. I absolutely love Andrew Guy. He is an amazing person to talk to interact with.
Yeah.
In no way, shape, or form like his Schmoedown character. And if you've seen his live streams, especially like the one he did last night, like he just picked up his dog Snickers and like he just like melted into butter with his dog. That is a great human being.
Which makes him a really great actor.
Yeah. And I say that like out of complete respect over if anyone has seen his commercial that he did for the military. Sorry, this is going to get kind of down for a minute, but I actually really appreciate this. The military suicide PTSD commercial that he did.
I've seen it.
That was a fantastic commercial. And as someone who has been in the military, I told him at the meetup how much I really appreciated his participation in something like that. So not only did I already like him because of his character in the Schmoedown, but as a person, as an actor that he's growing, that he's trying to be, he's going to be. I really appreciate what he did with that. So fantastic person. That being said, at no point in the actual Schmoedown did him and his character intimidate me. You can't see it because the camera cuts away at the best parts. But when you hear him like yelling or something while sitting at the desk, I'm sitting there laughing because I love his character. It's absolutely hysterical. So yeah, you don't see me essentially reacting to him, but yeah, Andrew Guy is amazing. That was the first time we got to meet Drew McWeeny, and I believe we actually got a chance to talk to him after. I believe we talked to him after the match.
Yeah.
Not really before.
Yeah, it was after.
And he's also an awesome person to talk to interact with. The thing is I knew of Drew McWeeny before because he was a part of, if y'all are familiar with Ain't It Cool News?
Yep.
Back in the like mid to late 90s. So Ain't It Cool News was started by Harry Knowles, which is he was based out of Austin, Texas. Drew McWeeny was Moriarty, who was one of their like most go-to writers for movies and stuff. So it was nice to be able to connect with him through the fact that I was already familiar as a younger Robert Adams, was familiar with Ain't It Cool News and reading articles by Moriarty, not knowing exactly who he was. And it was actually funny that I had found the Schmoedown, and then while reading up on the Schmoedown stuff is when I stumbled upon the fact that he was actually Moriarty. And that was just great to talk to him and like, hey, by the way, I connected with you through these articles that you made back when the internet was, hi, you've got mail. That was something great to connect with him on. So yeah, Drew McWeeny's awesome. And I will drop the whole K-fob facade. Robert Meyer Burnett is also a great, great person. He is hilarious. He is great to interact with.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Awesome. Kees, do you have any Schmoedown related questions for the guys?
Shit. Put on the spot here. No, I'm just listening to the story. I'm interested. No.
Oh, okay.
Nico, go for it.
Bringing back up, you mentioned sitting in the wrong chair.
Oh, yeah.
You also didn't go through the curtain. You kind of came out from center stage left as opposed to through the curtain. And so, like, what was going on in your mind? Because obviously it wasn't, I missed my cue to be behind the curtain.
So there was some slight confusion, mostly on my part, as to what was going to happen. And so I'm already dealing with like being nervous as is, confused about what I'm supposed to do. So that's why I just have the awkward walk in. And so since I'm nervous and not exactly knowing what I'm doing, is why I go straight to the chair. It is basically me just being nervous on the Schmoedown for the first part, which again, going back to the fact that this was like 30 minutes or so. How long I've known, like I was saying earlier, we were breaking for lunch and my brother and I were trying to figure out where we were going to go get food. And then Christian told me I'm going to be on the Schmoedown. I'm not hungry anymore. So
part of it was that the idea is to pull you from the audience, pull you from the crowd. They did that in two ways. They did it actually in the match, and then they did it in the promo before the match. Obviously, shooting both, not knowing which one they're going to use, they decided to go ahead and use both of them perfectly fine. And so that's the way it kind of worked. It plays into the idea that he's supposed to be lost and just a random audience member kind of coming up from the crowd, not knowing what's happening or what's going on. So that's why he didn't walk through the curtain in that one.
Mm-hmm. So so I found out about this. I found out about this before, like even DJ showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So DJ showed up and he's in the room where they shoot the promos. The room that they shoot the promo, of course, everyone knows it's a giant green screen. So they shoot that in front of the green screen, and over, like, what's really funny behind the scenes, off to the side is where they shoot the Inside Schmoedown. So that's all in the same room.
All the secrets exposed.
Yeah, I mean that's not a huge secret.
What?
Yeah. So
you mean like the studio? What?
Yeah. This is actually filmed in a studio. Go figure.
They don't just have a giant wall with a blue Schmoedown logo on it?
Yeah. So, I go to introduce myself to DJ. I was like, hey, I guess I'm your partner. So, I mean, we have a little bit of interaction, like kind of talking, briefly get to know each other because we're about to be a team going up against Andrew Guy and Drew McQueenie. So, which, cutting real quick, I love, like, especially my brother in our reaction to it when, I believe it was Clark Wolf that asked, what exactly is going through Robert's head? And my brother's like, I can tell you what's going through his head. Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. That is exactly what was going through my head.
Yeah.
Maybe not the word crap, but
Holy fuck,
let's
holy fuck,
imagine
holy fuck,
another,
holy fuck, holy fuck.
That's pretty close.
Maybe not even that word, but it's another word that I would say we don't typically say on our channel. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm introducing myself to DJ, and then I'm just sitting there while Christian is giving him guidance as to how to shoot the promo. Christian's like, okay, here's the setup, here's what's going on. Your partner's not here, but you still have to compete. Otherwise, you won't be able to compete. The only stupid answers will not be able to compete anymore. So that's your thoughts and feelings going into this promo and action. And that's essentially what happened. I'm just sitting there off to the side because I'm trying to feed off of what DJ is going to be doing in the promo as far as like how we are going to go into this being a team. And then, yeah, DJ does the whole like, hey, you, come here. What's your name? So I get up there, and of course I'm like, okay, first of all, yeah, exactly. I'm nervous. And then I was like, I know I'm going to be nervous on camera. So at that point, just in the promo, I'm like heavily leaning into it. Yes, I will admit, I was nervous as hell going into the actual Schmoedown match. But I kind of leaned into it a bit, especially like in the promo. So that's why the promo is like, I'm really awkward in the promo for that. And then after we shot that, then it was shooting the bit where you stand there at the end of the promo. And that's where I'm like all like puffed up. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get y'all. And then weird look to the camera type of thing. So that was how that was filmed.
Nice.
Were Drew and Drew in the same room as you and DJ when you did those poses?
No.
Not at the time, no.
No, they're all of that is filmed separately.
All right, fun little tidbit there.
And Andrew Guy actually had some really fun information that he shared about shooting that promo. He actually shared some fun information on his live stream last night. So I would recommend go check that out for his side of that as well.
Isn't it on his Patreon though for Action Industries or?
No, it's on his YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, then you guys go check that out once we're done here. And so now, you and DJ, you're in the match. You're going for it. You're in round one, and unfortunately, it didn't start off your way. That's all right. It happens to the best of us. I'm sure that when I finally make my debut, I might not have the quote unquote perfect round that I seem to be getting a lot of these days.
Okay, so while Chris is saying this, I know he'll get a perfect round in his first match.
Well, actually, you know what? Hold on. Then you know what? Let's flip. Yeah, let's flip the script. Yeah, let's flip the script because you know what, Kees? Maybe you're onto something. Because to be fair, I've competed in how many fan league matches? And that's probably where the difference is. Like, Robert, let me just ask you this: a little hypothetical. Would you have felt more prepared for suddenly being dropped into this if if let's say somehow one of us in the fan leagues at the time would have found you sooner and maybe brought you in and given you some rounds, as it were? Would that have helped you think?
From my experience watching, so my only experience essentially in the fan leagues was just the jukebox trivia.
Yeah.
I haven't actually played fan leagues as far as movie trivia goes. So maybe, but I feel like all that does, as far as me personally, not an opinion of the whole fan leagues, but it just kind of helps reinforce that yes, you do know facts about movies. And I feel like that almost anyone who participates in the fan leagues, they feel good enough about their own knowledge that they're willing to put it on the line and essentially publicly admit that you have knowledge about movies. And that's what it's for. That's what the fan leagues do, is it helps take people who think they know something about it and they start building up the ones that do. And that's the ones that you see, like Chance, like Paulo Yama, like Smets, the ones who then go from there and actually move on to the Schmoedown themselves. And then in some cases, like in Paulo Yama's case, you actually attain the level of getting the belt in the Schmoedown, getting the belt completely undefeated in the Schmoedown.
From Dan.
From
Dan.
Of all people. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how essentially the story would have been had I gone through the fan leagues instead of just filming reactions. But, yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know if that would have prepared him any more than otherwise. I mean, we do the reactions, so we're playing along regardless anyway. So I don't know if necessarily the fan leagues would help him or hinder him by being underneath those lights. I think the lights speak for themselves pretty much.
Yeah, those lights are real. Those when someone talks about being they do it on the Schmoedown. They talk about nonchalantly being under the white hot lights. Those lights are no joke. That is the reason why I have felt reserved about possibly being on the Schmoedown. I was like, look, I want to continue being on YouTube doing reactions. I want to feel comfortable being on camera and how to be a person who is seen publicly on camera. Yeah. And then maybe go sit under those lights. I mean, like, I'm under a light right now over here off to the side. You can see it reflecting in the picture behind me. That's no big deal. I'm used to this. But Schmoedown is a whole nother level of lights. And then, yes, when you've got Andrew Guy and Drew McQueenie sitting next to you, completely different. and I do think this is kind of leading into a point I wanted to make earlier. One of the biggest things behind the scenes that helped me out was Brandon Hanna. So after I had heard about this, that I was going to be on the Schmoedown, of course, I'm just wandering around. If you've been to Collider, they have that bullpen area essentially where everyone is working at. They have desks at. I'm just kind of wandering around there, and I like trying to wrap my head around it. And I talked to Brandon, and Brandon is like, "Look at this. You're going to have about 30 minutes to wrap your head around the fact that you're going to be on there." He's like, "Before my first match, I had like a week of just being in my head getting ready for this. You got to feel all of that right now." And
I was about to say, well, then in that case, you almost would prefer that rather than have to, dread on it for days on end and dream about it and whatnot.
I think that's why he gave that advice, because that was some great advice going into that. That was something that kind of stuck with me as I went into that, thinking like, look, and of course Brandon Hanna, we've known him. His name has been with the Schmoedown for a while now, even though he just this year made his rookie debut. So we know of him. He's been seen on there. He's brought Ben's briefcase in and stuff before. So he's been under the lights, but not been under the lights answering questions until this season. So yeah, that was some really good words of advice from him. Awesome. So yeah, I had to drop that just because I really appreciated that advice from him at that time.
Yep.
So, all right, gents. Since you're both here, I have to ask.
Answer's no.
When is it going to happen? Team Cinefanatics. And here's a better question.
I like how we both took a drink right there.
Do you want it to happen?
Absolutely. I mean, it would be. You can't say no to that. Like, if Christian put out the invite, like, "Hey, you guys are welcome to jump in, be a team," it's like, of course we're gonna say yes to that. We'll scrounge the money together, hop on a plane immediately, and fly back out to LA. That's no problem. Right now, that's not really a question we can answer, so to speak. I can tell you this for absolutely, like, for the remainder of the year, it's going into tournament season. All the teams, everyone is set for that already. So there's no Cinefanatics making a debut this year. Next year, we'll have to be in contact with Christian about that.
Right.
I do want to say, when I eventually can make the trip down to the US, I think it would be really cool, or just a lot of fun, if Chris could also be there, if you guys could be there, and if we could do Team Dedicated to Art, Chris and myself, versus Team Cinefanatics. Just an idea, completely hypothetical. It's probably never going to happen, but it would be cool.
And
you're on.
It would also be really cool if Chris Jericho was there, so I'd have something to do.
Oh, what are you going to do, Nico? It's Chris Jericho. I mean, come on.
I will put him on the list.
I think I have more in common with Chris Jericho than you do at this point, Nico.
How dare
driver.
Hey, name the band he sings for. I dare you.
Fozzy.
Okay, well done.
A follow-up question to what was just asked to you. Now, we know that Harloff always has backup plans for if a different outcome happens than what actually happens.
Mm.
What would have happened if you and DJ had won? Would Only Stupid Answers have continued in that iteration for the tournament, or would DJ and Sam have repaired up and it would have just been a one-time deal for you, or would Robert Meyer Burnett have had some involvement in the final outcome of the match? Like, what was the backup plan?
So here's the 100% truth on that. We don't know.
So this would have been like a Guy Merle situation where he was so certain it was gonna go one way, but
holy crap, this went sideways. Who knows? So
no, hold on, not necessarily. I would say he might have had a plan in his head. He didn't say anything to anybody. The big thing I think at that point is that if I were to hazard a guess, I would say that Burnett would have come out and said, no, that's not going to fly. That's not going to count. You guys aren't good.
That's what I said in the reaction, where I honestly think that simply because of the fact that Robert and DJ aren't a team, Burnett would have said, oh, you aren't a team. That doesn't count. So this doesn't count.
I mean, either way, Only Stupid Answers is still the team that it is. Sam will be back, and they'll continue playing as Only Stupid Answers as usual. So either way, we weren't going to be able to continue on with them under that kind of a story. It really was just a one-off at that point.
Now, what Christian actually told us at the same time that he was telling us that I'm going to be on the Schmoedown is he's like, and here's the thing. For anyone who questions exactly how like K-Fob works behind the scenes, the storyline was the same. The storyline was that the family is being pitted against Only Stupid Answers because they saw Only Stupid Answers as being an easy team. By the way, that cutscene where Burnett is sitting in Sam's office telling them that he's going to put them against Only Stupid Answers was also filmed at that moment. Right after I found out I was going to be on the Schmoedown, I'm in the bullpen area right outside the office listening to them film this, and that they're sitting like, oh, but Only Stupid Answers is an easy team. So I'm sitting there right next to Rachel Silverstreamy. I'm like, hey, that's not right. And she's like giggling about it. So
that's hilarious because I'm sitting around the corner as well, and so they're filming that entire thing. And when they actually aired that cutscene on YouTube, I don't know if you can even tell like in our reaction, but I'm sitting here like I'm not even really necessarily paying attention to what they're saying. I'm looking out the window behind them to see like, did I show up behind them? Did I walk? Because that would really ruin all of our plans for our reaction if I'm actually seen in the background.
I'm crouching behind a desk. Luckily, the angle that they shot Drew McQueen and Andrew Guy at, you can't see the desk that I was behind. But yeah, I'm crouched behind a desk just listening to that scene being filmed, and I'm sitting there laughing the whole time. Oh man, there's so much behind the scenes stuff that we could talk about on this.
Well, and then speaking of reactions and behind the scenes, tell me about that brilliant idea for your reaction to your own match. Please talk about it. That was amazing.
Yeah. First and foremost, before we say anything else about the reaction, we haven't got a chance to say this yet, and it needs to be said. 100% the idea for that reaction came from Paul Oyama.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one. We were sitting there after it was filmed. We're sitting there like, dude, we got to figure out how we're going to film a reaction to this. And Paul Oyama's like, why don't y'all film it where like you're watching it and then like Robert gets up and walks out and then he appears in the video down below. Because Paul Oyama has seen our videos, so he knows how our layout is.
Yes, that's exactly what we should do.
That's a great idea.
Here's the thing, like I think eventually we would have come across that idea on our own. We would have gotten there regardless. But I think Paul Oyama just speeded the process up for us, got us there even quicker.
Which was fantastic because before we had even left LA, which we left the next night, like it wasn't even 24 hours after being at Collider. We were on a plane headed back to Austin. So the second we left, before we left LA, we were already brainstorming exactly how we wanted to form that reaction because we knew that one was going to be key for it. So yeah, that was completely because of Paulo Yama.
Okay, Chris, we need to talk to Paul about how we're going to do our reaction for when we're in New York. Like, yeah.
To be fair, Nico, I think we were just fine on when we did the New York one because you were just there. But you know what? Maybe we will. Maybe we should.
He's got all the evidence.
I can visit my old nemesis one more time. Which, speaking of nemesis or rivals and whatnot, damn it, Christian, you deprived me of what could have been the greatest rivalry since myself and Chance. But dude, honestly, congratulations on doing the Us Reactors proud. Late to the Party did the same thing back in 2017, and you guys have now done the same thing as well. But speaking of rivals, though,
all the credit. Thank you.
But speaking of rivals, now that you are in the Schmoedown, and let's say 2020 comes around and you guys can start making appearances a little more often, who do you want to start some beef with?
See, that's a good question. We've always imagined, like, if we were to enter the Schmoedown as a team, who would we take on right off the bat? Because we're not going straight for the Shire Wolves. That ain't happening at all. Quick fun fact about that, about both the Shire Wolves that I'll interject here. I had not had the opportunity to officially meet Clark Wolf before the match had started. So she had no idea who I was when I walked on the set.
It's nice to meet you. Who are you?
Exactly.
Pretty much.
So, I mean, it was nice having a match. And I actually believe that was the first match called by Clark Wolf, if I remember correctly.
I feel like she's done it before, but I can't recall when off the top of my head.
Well, that was the first match that day.
Yeah.
Called Clark.
Well, yeah, especially that day. We had seen, like, up until then, we had seen all the other people that call, like, we seen Danielle Radford. I don't think we saw a Ken Knapsack called one. I think it was just Danielle Radford. And, of course, we also saw Christian Harloff and Mark Ellis. But, yeah, I think that was one of the first ones we've ever seen, if not her actual first match that she called. So that was fun. The fact that she's like, and Robert from Cinefanatics. Who's that?
Clark, she takes the game very seriously.
Yeah.
But also calling your match was Mark Ellis, who at this point in his life really does not give a fuck. So, like, how is it? You're with DJ sitting at the desk, you're trying to think of answers, and all of a sudden you have Baby Carrots making ridiculous references to sports and golf and movies that I've obviously never seen. And Van Halen. How distracting is that for you?
Luckily, much like the fact that I had already met Andrew Guy and I was used to how Andrew Guy is on stage, we had already met Mark Ellis. We met him back in March at South by Southwest. If you remember back to when we made the announcement video of the Houston meetup, we did a video with him where we're saying, yeah, we're just waiting to see if Mark Ellis is going to do stand-up at Houston. And then he miraculously walked between us and like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be doing some yucks at Houston. We had already met him at South by while he was here in town for that event. So, yeah. And then on top of that, we reintroduced ourselves essentially to Mark when he was doing the stand-up while we were in Houston. So we saw him after his stage thing, and he's like, hey, guys, how are y'all? So
by that point, we felt like old friends. So it's like,
yeah.
Hey, Mark, hey, how's it going, buddy?
So we show up at Collider for the Schmoedown taping. It was the third time we've seen Mark Ellis, and he's like, how are y'all doing?
How's it going, guys?
Like, there was no more like, oh my God, it's Mark Ellis. We're seeing Mark Ellis in person. It was like, hey, how are y'all? Good to see y'all again, type of thing. So,
Awesome.
yeah, the thing I really appreciate from Mark Ellis, and I hope even in our own videos to strive to be, is someone who's more like just off the top of your head, off the cuff. Your instant ability to react and make a comment about it. He does it very well. I would even say like he's on almost, I would say on the level of Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is able to do that kind of off the cuff banter. And
That's not
Mark
exactly
Ellis
the
is
question
really
I've
good.
asked, though. That's not the question I've asked, though.
How did
I'm
it
asking
feel with Mark
you
Ellis
as a
pulling that?
I'm asking you as a player, did you find some of that side banter that he was doing a little bit distracting as you're trying to come up with answers in your head? Because
yeah, not at all. The distance between the desk and where the commentators are, I mean, I could kind of hear them, but it was far enough away where I'm able to just be in my own headspace to think of the answer.
If you're ever wondering how far, ask William Bibiani.
Yeah.
okay, and
Plus, Nico, to be fair, you want distracting commentators, just be in a match where you have Cody Newberry and Brooklyn Vale as your hosts.
but and Robert can attest to this. Brooklyn, he understands that sometimes it's best to stay silent when competitors are thinking of answers and let the dramatic tension build from that silence, as opposed to just have talking all the time just so there's no dead air. Like silence can be as powerful as banter. So
Nico,
that's
Nico, how did that go in the #1 contender match, Caleb versus Eli versus Alex again? Sorry.
Yeah, I was at the desk for that.
Yeah.
I was still learning at the time.
It's all good. It took Case and I quite a few matches to get that down pat.
That's true.
You know, and with that, I just have two more questions before we wrap this up. See, we got about 10 minutes left, and I think that's enough time to get these last two big questions out of the way. Question number 1. What will you guys personally cherish the most out of that entire experience, from VidCon to being on Action Movie Anatomy, and of course now being in the Schmoedown? Like what are you gonna take with you for the rest of your lives from that whole entire experience?
I think if I were trying to answer that, I would say like the first and foremost is just looking at Christian, Mark, everybody who puts the Schmoedown on as role models, as a sense where they are absolutely gracious. Even Andrew Guy for having us on his show, all absolutely gracious and just absolutely wanting to see us as smaller time creators, smaller time on YouTube and all that, want to grow and succeed. They are, and we can even see like how many times like they call out reactors on the actual Schmoedown and say like, we love reactors out there, we love what you guys do. They are really big on just wanting to see everybody who's trying to go for it actually get to where they want to get to. And that's what I really, really like. And what just the biggest takeaway that I walk away from that is be supportive of other people on the platform who are trying to create, who are trying to live out their dream and do what they want to do. And that is, I mean, it's kindness. Kindness is a big key thing. And all of them are on board with that. Just really big on, trying to promote and grow everybody who's, doing stuff alongside them, so to speak.
Yeah. The nice thing about a platform such as YouTube is you're not competing with anyone. I mean, I'll bring all of us into this example in that we know that there's the Schmoedown Awards at the end of the year in which they have the category of Best Reactor After Show. If you get rid of just that one thing, there's no competition on YouTube. I'm not trying to get your views over another channel. Everyone has their dream to be a creative, however they see in their mind to be creative, and to go with that. One of the videos I was trying to actually make while we were at VidCon, I'll touch upon real quick here, was I was going to, my vlog channel, which who knows, I don't know if I'm going to keep that going, but I was going to call the video 7.5 billion. There are 7.5 billion people in this world. If you like something enough to want to film it, to put it on video, then someone else does too. Someone else likes it enough to watch it, to subscribe. And that's the beauty of a platform like YouTube, is that you can give your thoughts, your feelings, and opinions. There's people out there who will watch and listen to it. Eventually, they just have to find you, depending on how you tag your videos and description and whatnot. But we do these videos, and hopefully someone will see this. And again, we're not competing. I don't feel like Cinefanatics is competing for views anymore over dedicated to art. So some people will watch our videos, some people will watch your videos. Some people may like just your videos, some people may just like our videos, some people may like both. So it's an open space, and it's a wonderful thing that we get to be able to be a part, say, of the Schmoedown doing this in this space. And I'm losing my voice.
I would like that award, though. I'm not going to lie there.
Oh, shut up, Nico.
Oh, look, Nico,
You-
you don't have to
you
worry.
sound like
We're gonna
call to
win.
action.
Look, luckily, you know, not to humble brag here, but we'll at least win this once. Why? Because Kees and I kind of, you know, we've been doing this for almost 3 years, so
Technically, we've been nominated twice already.
yeah,
Once as Take 3 and once as Dedicated to Art.
yeah. So just saying, you know.
Okay,
but-
if y'all
but-
actually want to talk about the nomination and the Schmoedown Awards, then yeah, okay, I guess we kind of sort of care about it too.
Well,
But-
but that's not what's driving any of us to do what we do.
No.
We
not.
do this because we're passionate as fuck about this sport, and it is a fucking sport. Anyone says it's not a
Yeah.
sport, kiss my ass. Kiss
Me-
my
me-
ass.
Find out it's a sport.
Chess
Me-
is a
ask them
sport.
to Find out it's a sport.
Exactly. But one final thing for you guys, and sorry for getting distracted there, but apparently my print came in. Yay for Collision.
Hey,
Cool.
But what I want to ask you guys before we close out, what advice would you give to other up and coming people who maybe their first time will be coming up in the next year or so? What would you want to say to them, so that way maybe, you know, just so maybe they're a little bit better prepared?
Other than watch a lot of movies.
well, yeah, there's that.
Well, yeah, there's that.
The other aspect is, I mean, I didn't compete, but I would say get out of your head.
Yeah. And here's where we're gonna start crossing into what stuff do we know that we're not able to share, type of thing. We are aware of